Okay, so I finally got some good weather to make a quick update for you guys of the raspberry patch on July 12th. This is a follow-up to the May 31st snapshot that I did. And then again, I'm going to remind everyone to check back later this year for my full compilation video that I'm going to do, showing you everything that I'm doing throughout the year with the raspberry patch. And that includes everything from pruning to compost and fertilization, the different varieties, and the flavor and the winter hardiness and pests, everything in full detail. This is just a quick snapshot for today, just to keep you guys motivated and to kind of show you a few things. If you're in the middle of your season, you might learn a few things today too. But I know a lot of people are very interested to see how things are going. So we're going to start on the far left-hand side today with the boynes. And I'm not going to cover the Niwot, which is right next to that. That's why it's a little low right there. But let's get started and I'll show you the boynes. It's down here on the end, this raspberry cane, you can see this is the floor cane that we let overwinter. We clipped it to trim it, and it produced all these little laterals. They came off of it, and they've all produced berries, and they're all done now. So the thing we're going to do today is, since they're done producing berries, we're going to trim this floor cane out, because if we let that sit, that will actually promote disease and pests and other things. So we're going to get this out of there today since it's pretty much done, but we might find one or two more berries left. Like there's one right here today. This is a boyne. It's pretty good flavor. This one's been good. It's not the best, but it's the earliest berry that you're going to get, so that's better than nothing. And you can see this is a really short cane because I just planted this last year. These are going to be the boynes for next year. Let's get that zoomed in for you. So these canes are going to be the floor canes for next year that are going to produce. This only produces in the second year. So we're going to, next year we're going to trellis this up here and zip tie it on. So we're going to have a lot more berries next year. So really it's in the third year of your raspberry patch that you're going to get the most berries. And look at this, see how far out all these other canes come? This is a heritage that I planted in 2013. And it's massive. I mean, look how far out this thing comes, and just trying to reach it, like I can barely reach it and I'm 6 foot tall. So let's take a closer look at that. So this is our heritage raspberry, and it stretches from probably about here, anywhere you see some of the fruit beginning to come out, where the flower buds are coming out. So from like this cane over to about even here, you can see this has got some fruit coming on it. So that's one of the easy ways to identify what you've got, because the boynes that are next to that here, they're not going to produce fruit. They're just primocanes that are going to grow and produce fruit starting for us next year. Well, these are coming in, it's mid-July. You can see I'll show you a close-up in a second, but there's a lot of production coming in here, and the flowers are beginning to open. The bumblebees are coming out and very actively pollinating and eating the nectar, so they're loving these right now. And when these start to come in, it'll probably take about a month before the raspberries start to actually ripen and be edible. From the day that you see that first flower, you're probably about a month away. The Heritage is a great tasting raspberry. You must get one if you're doing your own patch. It's a classic. So it's going to have a little bit of sweetness, but it's more tart. The berries aren't huge, but they're going to be a nice deep color of red. It's a great raspberry. It gets a little bit sunburnt, but it's one of the better tasting raspberries that you're going to get. Just about everyone that has a patch is going to have something like this. And look how tall these are. I mean, we're on a little bit of a slope here, but I can barely reach the top of that. So what's going to happen here is, once that fruit starts to come in, these canes are going to start to tip over, and they're gonna slouch over. That weight from those berries gets them to tip. So right now they're very erect and they're straight up, but that's all going to change once that fruit starts to come in. And here's a close-up for you on the Heritage. There's a lot of flowers. This is a big producer. All right, and this is the royalty raspberry. This was one of the tallest, you recall. It was way up here, and as the berries came in, again, it starts to bend over the trellis wire because of the weight of it pulling it down. And we're getting a lot of berries on this. This is the week that it's really beginning to produce, and it seems to come in like all at once. So you're not going to have it trickle out over 3 or 4 weeks. And the berries are really deep purple, and they're very large, actually. The flavor's good. It's okay. It's not the best. But then again, the weather in Cleveland's not been too good. It's been rainy and overcast. One of the rainiest months on record in June for Cleveland. That's really good. It's not the best, but it's really good. So, let me explain real quick. The royalty, these are the fluorocanes from last year. It produces on a fluorocane. The primocanes are behind it here, coming up from the middle. And I'll show you how to prune those in my compilation video that I'm going to do at the end of the year. Because there's too much to cover here. I'm just kind of keeping you guys motivated and showing you all these berries. But behind it, you can see this is a primocane. This is a primocane. This one is. Those are huge. They're like trees. I mean, they come up, you prune them, and they start to branch out like a tree. But back in here, there's more fluorocanes. I don't know if you can see this. Like, I mean, look at the size of this berry. That's that's gigantic. And you're getting a little bit of like, there might be some pest issues. I mean, something's pecking away at this one. So I might just, you know, kind of tear that off and not eat that part. But for the most part, I've not had too many pest issues. I've kept up with it by spraying neem oil. Neem oil's the trick for me. And again, that's part of my compilation video. I'll show you guys how I apply the pesticides. Okay, to the right of the royalty, we have Joan J here. This is one of my absolute favorites. I love this raspberry. It's a very beautiful red. It's a bigger berry, and it's a primocane producer. So you're seeing these primocanes. Look how tall these are, just like the heritage. And a lot of fruit is beginning to come in. You see the little flowers. We're going to start getting fruit here. So we're probably about 4 weeks away from harvest, once you start to see little flowers like that. But again, really tall. The bees are active today and they're out here pollinating. Again, with primocanes, you want to let all of them be cut to the ground in the winter, late winter, and let as much of that new growth come in as possible, because that's just, it's not going to affect your yield or the size of the berry like on the fluorocanes. Like on the fluorocanes, you're going to be cutting back, you know, maybe 2 to 3 canes per foot, per linear foot. Whereas with these primocanes, you let them go crazy. You just keep them within a 12-inch wide row. And you can see some of these royalty are kind of creeping in here. So I'm going to sneak one of these. Pretty good. Okay, and then to the right of the Joan J is my Tailor. And the way I did the Tailor was I left the fluorocanes over here, and I left the primocanes to the left of them. So these primocanes, this is a fluorocane producer. So this will not produce until next year. You may get a little bit on the tip, but very little late in the fall. But for the most part, this is designed to fruit on the 2nd-year cane. And that's what we have right here. And the fruit's coming in pretty good. It's a little bit nerve-wracking because you have to let them ripen all the way before you eat them. If you pull them early, they'll be a little bit more tart. And you'll know when they're ripe because they're going to pull very easily. You'll even see them kind of like this one. You'll even see it kind of begin to fall off. That came off very easily. The Tailor is one of the best tasting raspberries you're ever going to have. I mean, there's nothing that beats this raspberry. It will win, you know, People's Choice Taste Test Awards everywhere. So, we have a few fluorocanes. They're coming in right now, just like the royalty. they're all going to come in around the same time, starting with the Boyne, then to the Royalty. The Tailor's a little bit behind that even. But then these primocanes are getting really tall, and that's fine, because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up pruning these back so that they kind of droop over maybe a foot, and then that leaves the thickest portion of this cane for next year to support new, to support the new fruit. Because the fruit's really heavy. You can see, I mean, this thing's really pulling it down. We have a lot of laterals here. We probably have about another week before this Tailor is done fruiting. So if today's mid-July, that helps put it in perspective for you. But really a great tasting raspberry. They're a little bit smaller this year. And I didn't leave too many primocanes. I only left 4 of them. There's 2 in the back and there's 2 up front. The ones in the back are kind of hard to get to. So next year, as a little tip for you, if you're up against a garage like I am, I'm going to tie those floor canes up front so I get easier access to them. Okay, then on the end we have, this is Fall Gold. And Fall Gold's a little bit shorter, but that's okay. That's just the way this one works. It produces a little bit later in the year. This one is just beginning. They're a little smaller, but it's just beginning to produce some fruit set. Some flowers or whatever you want to call it. I'm not an expert in what the terminology is, but I just know I'm going to get a lot of good fruit here really soon. Now the Fall Gold is a yellow raspberry, so if you've been keeping track, I have purples, yellows, reds, and I have a brand new black one on the end that we just planted this year. So this is the Fall Gold, and then the very end here, it's a good idea if you do it to put them on the ends, the Royalty. The Royalty, because it kind of grows like a tree, where it comes up 30 inches, and then you kind of prune it at the top, and then it branches out. And that's what we have back here. I already pruned it probably in mid-June, and this thing it's already branching out and going crazy. And then next year, it'll be hanging all over this trellis, the end caps of the trellis and the wire. But you want to be close to one of these if you've got a Royalty, because the amount of production is enormous. So it can support the weight of that. And just real quick, pests, have I had any pests? Well, the roses I planted around the back of the garage, they attracted some aphids. So I had to spray with some neem oil. I had some fruit worms, I had to spray with neem oil for that. And I had spider mites. So again, those are 3 things that you're going to have to watch out for. They're at least common in Ohio. June was one of the rainiest months on record since like 1902 in Cleveland, Ohio. So it was a horrible month for the rain. And raspberries don't like a lot of rain. They prefer it to be kind of dry, actually. Enough water, but not waterlogged. So I think that everything is behind probably a week and a half or even 2 weeks, because the weather has sucked in Cleveland, to be frank. So hopefully that rain starts to kind of dissipate as we get into late July and August. But we'll see. The weather forecast is sounding pretty bad for the next 10 days again. But the pests, the spider mites, they're going to be down low. You spray the underside of leaves with neem oil. The aphids, I use neem oil for that too. I just sprayed the roses, and then I manually killed them. So I just walked around, found them, and squished them with my fingers. And that's about it. You just want to, stay on top of those things as they come up. If you let them go, then it turns into a much bigger problem for you. But when it's a backyard raspberry patch like this, you are probably out here all the time, and you're paying attention, and you're going to see those changes, and you're going to be on it. And after a year or 2, you're going to get very familiar with the issues that you're going to have in your area, so that you can get the most production and yield.